All right, welcome back, everybody. The compare contrast essay is due right now. If you have not emailed that to me, you need to email that to me immediately. Pause this video, email your final copy, your 3 peer review sheets, and 1 rough draft to williamnedrow@triton.edu. If I do not have that in the next few minutes, it will be considered late. I will not accept any emails after midnight, so make sure you get that in right away. All right, today we begin the division and classification essay, which is my favorite essay of the bunch because it really pushes people to think, come up with an original model. So it's really challenging in terms of critical thinking skills, which I really like. All right. To understand this essay, you have to understand what is wrong with my wife. Okay, let me tell you the story. I have to be quiet because she's downstairs. Okay, so it was the day after her 21st birthday. She had acquired tickets for Mike Singletary's last home game. All right, so this is a pretty big deal, especially for Bears fans growing up after the '85 season. We got to go down to Soldier Field and see Mike Singletary, future Hall of Famer, in his last game as an NFL player. Okay. So we were a little late because, as I say, the night before, 21st birthday party. So by the time we got everybody out, and cleaned everything up, and headed down to Soldier Field, and I think it was like right before halftime that we showed up. Now anybody who's been at a game at Soldier Field late in the season, with the wind blowing right off the lake, they can know how cold that can be, right? So it was me, my wife, our friend Carrie, my friend Herb, and Herb and I were excited. Historic moment at Soldier Field. We were getting into the game, we were cheering. Carrie and my wife Colleen not feeling so well after the previous night. They're cold, they're not big fans of football, they're kind of miserable. Okay, so eventually, I don't know, late third quarter, early fourth quarter, my wife says, where is he? We're here to celebrate Singletary, where even is he? So I look on the sidelines, and after a while I'm like, oh, okay, I spot him, right? He's there, like little, he's there on the sideline. I'm trying to point him out, She goes nuts. So, what the heck? What's going on? Like, what the heck? We're here to celebrate his career, right? It's Mike Singletary Day. His picture's up everywhere. His jersey's up everywhere. He's not even playing. Like, what are we wasting our time for? He's not even on the field. And I said, look, honey, calm down, relax. We have the ball right now. Okay? So my wife doesn't understand football. She sees 55 guys on the sideline. She assumes, I don't know, that the coach just grabs the 11 best players and says, go out there, right? So I had to divide and classify it for her, right? I had to help her understand how to understand the parts as a relationship to the whole, okay? So I did, I divided and classified the team into 3 groups, all right? Come on down here. Okay. All right. So yes, we've got the football team, right, with all 55 guys, but there's different parts of that team, okay? And by dividing it and helping her understand, now when she watches football, hopefully, she understands what's going on, okay? So in this case, I broke it up into 3 groups, right? I said my thesis essentially is that there are 3 parts to a football team, okay? We're going to call them offense, defense, and special teams. Okay, if I were writing this into an essay, that would be my thesis. All football teams can be broken down into 3 groups: offense, defense, and special teams. Okay? Each one of these would be my body paragraph. Okay? Each paragraph is designed to help explain how this part fits the whole. All right? Now, within each body paragraph, I have a similar format to everything we've been doing. Right? I've got my topic sentence, okay, which will introduce each one of these groups, okay? Now the second thing which is different about this essay than others is the second sentence is always the definition, okay? Purpose of the definition is to help your reader understand what fits into each one of these things. Okay? Okay? And then the rest of the paragraph is dedicated to examples. Help your reader understand what makes up the offense or the defense or the special teams. Okay? So I'm going to flesh it out. I'm going to give examples. I'm going to help somebody who's not familiar with whatever it is you're talking about understand what goes into each one. Okay? So we can start with the offense. Okay? My topic sentence would be the offense. The first group is the offense. Okay? But that second sentence, the definition, is real important. It has to classify exactly what goes in here. All right? So you might be inclined to say that the offense is the group whose job it is to score points, but it's not. Okay? Your topic sentence or your definition has to be real precise so that everybody understands what goes where. Okay? The offense's job is to score touchdowns. Okay? Then I might go into some examples and explain how that functions. Okay? Usually you have a quarterback whose job it is to hand off the ball or to pass to receivers. You've got the offensive line whose job it is to protect the quarterback or run block. You've got wide receivers to whom you can throw the ball, and you've got maybe a running back or a fullback whose job it is to run through the offensive line and try to score touchdowns. Okay? Okay. My second topic sentence would begin the second group. Okay? The second group is the defense. Its job is to prevent touchdowns. Okay? Now again, I can give some examples. You've got the defensive line that lines up alongside the offensive line, tries to sack the quarterback. You've got your linebackers, okay, who kind of play both run and pass defense. And you've got your secondary, whose primary position it is to stop the receivers from catching the ball. Okay? Anytime someone's on the field trying to prevent a touchdown, they're a defensive player. Okay? Finally, you've got special teams. Okay? I'm going to define special teams as any player who's trying to score via kicking or prevent scoring via kicking. Okay? So basically, you have special teams when you are trying to kick an extra point after a touchdown, or you're trying to kick a field goal to get 3 points. Okay? Under this definition, if you're kicking off to the other team, you're not special teams, you're offense or defense. Somebody who's taking a kickoff is trying to score a touchdown. Other people are trying to prevent that touchdown. Okay? You'll also notice under these definitions, players can change what they're doing mid-play. Okay? A quarterback, when he takes the hike, is normally on offense. He's trying to get his team to score a touchdown. Now, if he throws an interception, okay, let's say the safety catches the ball. Now the safety suddenly is trying to score a touchdown, right? He's now an offensive player. And that quarterback, who's trying to tackle him so that he doesn't score that touchdown, is now a defensive player. Okay? By understanding the relationship of all these parts to the whole, hopefully, my wife understands football more, and she sees how all these things interact. Okay? So a couple of rules of this mode. Okay, and the assignment sheet will be up on our Blackboard page under this folder. A couple things that you have to keep in mind. You want to follow this format. Okay, you want a separate sentence for your topic sentence and your definition. That second sentence of each body paragraph has to be the definition. It has to clearly articulate and delineate what goes into each one of those things. Okay, a couple other things that you have to think about for this assignment. Your model must be original. It must belong only to you. If I can Google this on the internet and bring it up, you will either receive an F for plagiarism or I will not give you credit for the assignment. Okay? Every once in a while I get people who want to do something like, I'm going to divide all of the months in the year into 4 categories that I call fall, spring, summer, and winter. Okay? Dude, you did not invent winter. Okay? So your model has to belong to you and only you. okay? Don't try to take an existing model and create something new, okay? This model that I'm using here, I would not accept for the paper because I did not invent the idea of offense, defense, and special teams, okay? All right. Whatever your category is, it has to include everything in that category, okay? So if you're doing candy, as someone did in the past, every piece of candy I have to know where to put, okay? So if I'm reading your essay and I go, wait a minute, Snickers bars don't fit anywhere, you're gonna lose points, okay? So you're gonna really have to think hard on this essay about how you can create a model in which everything fits into something, okay? The corollary to that is everything you do has to be in one category only, okay? So again, if I'm reading your candy essay and I go, wait a minute, Snickers belongs in this category, but also in this category, you lose points, okay? Those definitions should really help delineate what goes where, okay? If you haven't already looked at the assignment sheet, something else you're going to note is that this essay has to be 6 body paragraphs, okay? So you have an introduction, now you're going to have 4 body paragraphs, and you're going to have your conclusion, okay? All right, so this one's tough. It requires a lot of thinking. It's going to require a lot of readjusting, okay? So after you've come up with a model, you're going to want to test it and see what fits and what doesn't, okay? Because like I said, if you realize that there's some overlap, or you realize that something fits in more than one category or doesn't fit in a category, then you got to tweak those definitions to see how you can make it work. I alluded to a candy essay earlier. I once had a student who was doing candy. It was around Halloween time. He was working hard, you know. I'd met with him a couple times, and then one day, right before the essay was due, he stormed into my office, and I could tell he was furious. I said, what's the matter? He just looked at me and he said, Skittles. I said, what? And he said, Skittles, right? They have a hard candy shell, like M&Ms, so they could go in that category, but they're also fruity, like Juicy Fruits or something, so they should go in that category, right? So I said, well, I don't know. You're going to have to go back. You're going to have to kind of come up with a new model, okay? And that's what this essay does. It really tests your critical thinking skills. You've got to find something that works, okay? All right, so let me give you an example. And at the end of class, I'm going to have you guys do some examples. I'm going to have everybody break up into the same groups that you used for your peer review. So when that homework gets assigned, know that that's where you'll go. All right. But an example that kind of shows exactly how this essay would work better than the football example is bad students. Okay. And I'm going to do 4 body paragraphs because that's what you have to do for this assignment. Okay. So you notice right away that what I'm doing is I'm narrowing the field that I have to examine, okay? If I was going to do all students, I'd have to account for many, many more people, all right? By saying bad students, I'm narrowing it down so that I can only focus on what I have to focus on, okay? Now, before I get going on this essay, I want everybody to think. Have you ever been in a classroom with a bad student? If you're not nodding your head right now, you might want to take an honest look at yourself in the mirror. Because if you can't think of somebody who behaves worse than you, maybe you're that person. Okay. No, but seriously, think about somebody you've been in class with who's been disruptive, who's been a bad student. Okay. Hopefully, by the end of this model, you'll be able to kind of look back and go, oh, yeah, that student was definitely this type of person. Okay. All right, so here's my thesis statement. Okay. All bad students that I've ever had, okay, and I've worked for 2 years, they can all be broken into 4 groups, okay? I got the vampires, I have the werewolves, I have the zombies, and I have the demons, So, here's how I'm breaking down all my bad students, these 4 groups: vampires, werewolves, zombies, and demons. Okay? That would be my thesis statement. Okay? Now, this model belongs to me, it's solely mine. If I were to walk into my colleague's office and say, oh man, I had a terrible day in class today, I had a demon or a zombie, okay? They might look at me kind of strangely, okay? But after they read this essay and they see how I classified these 4 groups, all of them are gonna understand, oh yeah, I've had one of those, let me tell you about this person, okay? All right, so I introduced the topic, I've got my 4 groups, I got my thesis, I'm ready to go, all right? Now, the purpose is to help you understand who these people are so that whoever you've got thinking in your mind, you're able to classify into one of these 4 groups. Okay? All right. So, generic topic sentence, right? The first group of bad students are vampires. Okay? Then I want to define it. I want to be able to teach everybody what a vampire is. Okay? Vampires are the ones who suck the life out of everything. Okay? These are the people who take away from class but never give. Okay? Now, I want to give some examples. Okay? Help people understand how broad this category is. Okay? So, vampires are the ones who waste time. Okay? They're the ones who not only come in late, but when they come in late, they disrupt everything, right? They ask, what did I miss? They take a bunch of time getting all their stuff out and bothering the person next to them. Like, what's he talking about? Where are we? Okay. Vampires also like to take from other students, okay? Oftentimes you find them real close to your neck as if they're about to suck your blood during a test, right? Because they're looking over your shoulder trying to get something from you, okay? These are the plagiarists, right? They're the ones who don't give. They're just going to suck away somebody else's ideas and put them in their own essay, okay? These are the ones who also like to suck time away, okay? The class clowns, the people who just when you're rolling along and you're getting into something, they want to stop and interrupt, not because they have a question, but because they're going to make some sort of stupid comment or something. Okay? You guys all recognize behaviors? Okay. Cool. All right. The second group, in addition to the vampires, are the werewolves. Okay? Werewolves are students who are on the hunt. Okay? Werewolves aren't there to learn. They're only in class so they can get some. Okay? You can usually recognize a werewolf on the first day of class. Okay? Think about when we did have class in the classroom, where you sat. Okay? For almost all of you, it was almost inevitably the same place you sat on the first day, right? Okay. Werewolves are different. They'll migrate. Okay? You can always recognize a werewolf on the first day of class because he or she will walk in, stand at the threshold, and kind of look out at the entire classroom. Okay? Then he or she will go and sit down next to the cutest guy or girl in the class. Okay? They'll stay there for about 3 or 4 weeks, but if that's not working really well, if they realize they're not going to get any there, okay, usually about week 5, boom, you'll see them flip over to the second hottest girl or guy in the class. Okay? Werewolves aren't totally disruptive in class. Okay? Oftentimes they'll be whispering to the person they're trying to hit on or tell a joke, but otherwise they don't want to draw too much attention to themselves. Okay? The classroom's their hunting ground. They know if they get kicked out, they have no longer a chance to spend time with whoever they're hitting on. Okay? They'll usually maintain about a C- average because they don't really care about the schoolwork. They just don't want to fail out, so they have a chance to stay and hit on the people they want to hit on. Okay? Again, think about this group. It's small, but I'm thinking all of you inevitably can think of 1 or 2 people. Okay. In addition to the vampires and the werewolves, okay, we have a group that's called zombies. Okay? Zombies are the living dead. Okay? These are students who are there physically, but that's about it. All right? There's not much going on in their dead brains. Okay? These students tend to come in late because they're going through rigor mortis, so they can't move fast. Okay? So about 10 minutes after class begins, they'll come shuffling very slowly into class. Okay? their vocal cords aren't working much either. So oftentimes when you ask them, like, do you understand or do you have a question? They'll just kind of go, okay. Zombies, because they're decomposing, have a problem. Their heads will sometimes fall off their necks, okay? So in the middle of class, suddenly you'll hear something thunk onto the desk, and you realize that their head is down, and there's nothing going. They're asleep. They're gone, right? They'll just be kind of like snoring or drooling on the desk. Okay, zombies aren't all that problematic. They take up space, but they're slow, so they're easy to get around. So usually, unless you can bring them back from the dead, if you ignore them, they'll just vanish after a few weeks. All right. The final group is the most dangerous. They're the ones that are called the demons. Okay? The demons are the ones who are possessed by Satan. Okay? These are the scariest because normally you don't notice a problem until you need to exercise something, right? So these are students that, 5, 6, 7 weeks throughout class, they'll be great. And then all of a sudden one day, you'll think everything's normal. They'll walk in, you'll say, hey, how's it going? And suddenly they'll flip over a desk and scream, why would you ask me that? Okay. Sometimes they'll, grab a pen and try to stab you, or just burst into tears and start throwing things. Okay. They were normal yesterday. Now suddenly they're possessed by Satan. Okay. This is the scariest thing in the world because you don't see it coming. Okay. You could be total friends with them one day, and then the next day you're like reaching for the panic button and summoning the police. Okay. Usually, if you survive the encounter, you never see him again. But every once in a while they come back after visiting a priest and getting exorcised and act like nothing's ever happened. They'll say, oh, hey, sorry I tried to stab you on Wednesday. Is there any homework due today? Okay. These definitely don't happen that often, but when they do, it's the scariest thing you're ever going to encounter. Okay? All right, so then I get to my conclusion, right? I'd wrap it up. These are my 4 types of bad students. I could give you examples of each one that I've had, okay? Now that I have laid out this model, hopefully you're thinking about some of the bad students you've experienced in your own class, and, my colleagues or other people who work in the industry can read this and go, oh, okay, yeah, definitely. Last Thursday I had a werewolf, or in my psychology class I knew a guy who was like that. Okay, so I've broken down this larger category, bad students. I've divided each one, hopefully delineated so that you can recognize the difference between each one, and I've created a model that I think works. So that's kind of what you need to do for this assignment. All right, so a couple other rules. Whatever you choose has to have thousands of things in it, okay? Lots of things, okay? It has to have more than 4 things. I'm going to say that again. It has to have more than 4 things, okay? If your thesis is, my 4 friends can be divided into James, Betty, Doug, and Steve, okay? I'm going to ask you, what else goes in the Steve category, okay? If it's only Steve, you've done the essay wrong, okay? Now, if you want to take your Facebook friends, your 50,000 Facebook friends, and divide them into 4 groups, that's perfectly fine, okay? But you can't take a small group of something and divide it into 4 things, okay? I have 4 members in my family, and they are Gavin, Hallis, William, and Peyton, okay? If nothing else goes in the Peyton category, you're not doing your essay right. Okay. You want to avoid overlap, okay? Which means with the definitions, okay, you want to use the same criteria. This will help you avoid overlap, okay? So every once in a while I get people who are going to classify friends. I'll go back to that example. And they might do 2 of the categories based on how often friends are there for them, okay? And then they might do the other 2 categories on how they met their friends, okay? So I have friends who are completely reliable. They're always there for me. I have friends who are somewhat reliable. They're always, you know, like they're there when it's good for them, but not there when it's inconvenient. I have friends who I met in high school, and I have friends who I met in college. Okay, well, I'm going to read that, and I'm going to think, wait a minute. My friend John is always there for me, but I also met him in college. So does John go here, or does John go here? Okay, so once you pick the criteria for how you're going to define, apply that throughout the whole thing. Okay, that way you don't have overlap like that. Okay? A lot of this assignment is going to ask you to decide if you want to make something a little bit more broad, to include more things in it, maybe make something more narrow. Okay, so there's a lot of adjusting that goes on with this assignment. That's why those definitions become important. Okay, something else to consider about the definitions. The definitions control what does and does not go in that thing. Okay, what you call the categories, really not all that important. All right, those definitions really break down what is and is not important. You see what I got here? So I used to teach out of a textbook where they did a division and classification about mall people. Okay, it was a 3-body paragraph. That's terrible. All right, so what they were dividing and classifying was people who hang out at a mall. Okay, not workers, not shoppers, just people who kind of go and just hang out for fun. Okay, not that we're doing any of that this week. All right, so the way they broke it down, they had teenagers, couples, and families. Okay, so that was their model. The 3 groups of people who go to the malls just to hang out are teenagers, couples, and families. Okay. Now, anybody who's worked at a mall or who's spent a lot of time at a mall knows there's another group that kind of hangs out at a mall. Okay. I'll let you think about that in a second. But that doesn't hang me up so much. What hangs me up is the definitions, right? The first body paragraph was about teens, okay? And they defined teens as people who go to the mall to see and be seen, okay? They go to hang out, they go to see their friends. It's a social thing. They're just there to kind of be seen by other teens, to flirt, to maybe pick girls up or guys up, that type of thing, okay? Couples are people that go to the mall for cheap dates, okay? They hold hands, they look at furniture, they might eat at the food court. They're just trying to spend time together without spending a lot of money, okay? All right, and then families are, you know, I don't know, they didn't really have a good definition, but basically they were defining them as the nuclear family, okay? Mom, dad, mom, kids, okay? Now, according to this model, these are the 3 groups that hang out at the mall. If you've worked at a mall, you spend a lot of time at a mall, you know that there's another group that goes to the mall to hang out, right? Has everybody figured it out? Okay. Anybody who's been to a mall right before they open, okay, knows that the old people go and hang out at the mall, okay? They'll show up, they'll have breakfast at Dunkin' Donuts or McDonald's, they'll talk with each other. Doesn't seem like any people who are in their 80s or 90s and retired fit in these 3 groups, okay? However, they do, based on the definition, okay? The old people are a subset of the teens, okay? Because based on the definition, a teen is anybody who goes to the mall to see or be seen, okay? And that's exactly what the old people are doing before the mall opens, okay? They're doing exactly the same thing the teenagers do after school. They're there to see people, to chat, to socialize, to pick up girls, or to meet guys, okay? So the label teens might throw you off. You might think, oh, wait a minute, the essay forgot the old people. But really the definition applies to those old people, Okay, so what you want to do is make sure that your definition is broad or narrow enough to account for everybody, regardless of what you call the category. Okay, and then try to give broad examples. Okay, we were looking at transitions last class, and we talked about, you know, example transitions and that type of thing. You want to give as many broad examples as you can so that you can show exactly what fits into each category and show to me, who's grading the essay, that everything is accounted for, and everything's only accounted for once. Okay, so this is kind of the challenge of the essay. Let me check my notes and see what else I have to talk about. Yeah, I've lost my notes. Okay, so let's talk for a second about what you need to do for class today. All right, that could be my notes right there. Use criteria throughout, no overlap, must be indented. Okay, again, as a reminder, this is 4 body paragraphs. You know, we've done the 5 body paragraph up to this point. Now things get a little more difficult. We're preparing you for 101. So we will have 6 total paragraphs for this assignment and 6 total paragraphs for the next one. So introduction, 4 body paragraphs, okay, and a conclusion. All right, here is what I need you to do. Okay, again, as a reminder, every class you're going to log on just at a normal time. I'm going to give a little instruction, and then there will be kind of a follow-up that you'll need to complete to get credit for this class. Okay, I'm going to have you go into the same forum that you used for your peer reviews. Okay, so I'm just going to leave that one open, and you can do this assignment there with the people that you were working with for your peer review. Okay, I'd like you guys to practice with the division and classification. Okay, so I'm going to ask you to do 4 things, okay, as a group. Some of these will be pretty tough. Okay, I'd like you to take music. Okay, all music. Okay, so every type of music ever invented, you want to break up into 4 groups. Okay, I'll give you a hint right now. You can't just start taking genres and do that. So you can't say, oh, I'm going to do rap, hip-hop, reggae, and ska. Okay, because I'm going to come back at you and say, what about blues? What about country? What about pop? Okay, so how can I create a model that puts all music into 4 groups? Okay. All right. Do dates. Okay. Now, by dates, I'm talking about going out with a romantic interest, not, you know, 4th of July, Halloween. Okay. Think about all the dates you've been on. Think about all the dates you've seen on TV. Okay. How can I break down dates into 4 groups? Okay. I think friends is an interesting one. Okay. Consider what friends you have. Okay. How could you break your friends into 4 groups? And then sports. I think that's a good one. Okay. If you're having trouble thinking about this essay, consider your phone. Okay. How many apps do you have on your phone? Right. Many of you probably have a lot, right? Now, there's different ways we divide and classify those apps. Okay. For me and my phone, I think I have 4 screens. Okay. So I have to decide. I divide all of my apps based on those screens. What am I going to put on that first page? What am I going to put on the second page? Okay. Another thing we do, at least I do, I have folders for many of my apps. Okay. I have a sports folder. I have a games folder. I have a commerce folder. Okay. So same thing. If you took all of your apps and had to put them into 4 folders, how would you do that? How would you divide and classify all of the apps you have into 4 folders? Okay. My biggest regret with the iPhone is I can't do the same thing with my friends and my contacts. I'd very much love to just create 4 folders that I can use to separate all those people. All right, so here's the homework assignment, okay? first of all, as a reminder, if you have not turned in your essay, you need to do that right now. All right? If I don't get it before class ends, it will be counted as late. If I don't get it by midnight, it will not be counted as all. Okay? Second, go into the forum with the people that you did the peer review with, okay? And I want you to talk amongst yourselves and come up with a model for all 4 of these things: music, dates, friends, and sports, okay? I will check in at the end of class and see what you guys have posted, and then I will respond back to you, okay? But in order for you guys to get credit, I need to see all 4 of your voices, or 5. I know certain groups had 5. And I need to see this completed, okay? I will comment on those and give you some feedback. Okay, I need you to read the chapter on division and classification, okay? The pages are on our syllabus. I will also cut out those pages and put them in this folder, okay? One of those essays is a brilliantly written essay by probably the most genius human being you've ever met in your life. There's maybe a quiz on that, so make sure you read it. And then we'll talk about that next class so that everybody gets a really firm understanding of how to do this assignment. If there's anything else that I'm forgetting, it will be listed in our folder for today's lessons. But I think that's about it. So if you have any questions personally, you want to brainstorm ideas with me, feel free to shoot me an email. You're free to use any of these if you'd like, after you as a team kind of comes up with some ideas. Otherwise, we do not have a whole lot of time for this assignment. So I'm going to jump on that quickly so we can get this out of the way and get to our argumentative essay. Like I said, if you have any questions, shoot me an email. Otherwise, I look forward to seeing what you guys come up with these 4 things. Thank you.